What's poppin', mi gente? Your boy's back with another video. Now, it's been almost 2 weeks at this point, so I definitely want to put something up, and this is actually going to be a public Patreon post because I want everybody to see the end result of the effects I've created here. It's going to be a pretty short video. I'm going to be putting up a change log in the next 1 to 3 days with details on this. Again, it's going to be a little more concise because a common complaint I've been getting from everybody is the fact that nobody wants to read through a long list of change logs. They just want a summary, so I figure this will be a little better for the moment. Plus, it also means that I'm not spoiling things because we are getting to the point where if I put in too many details, it's going to spoil a lot of the game for you guys. In short, what I've been working on the last 12 days or so is Dracula 2's animations, is Fireball, some scripting, and a bunch of the flame puff effects from the original game. For those who don't know, in the original Symphony of the Night, they use a lot of the same flame puffs from Rondo of Blood. However, in both games they got extremely creative because in Symphony of the Night, I can tell you guys up front, if I remember correctly, there's 64 slots for normal enemies, 32 slots for respawning enemies, and that includes projectiles, and 32 slots for effects related to them, such as the aforementioned flame puffs created when an enemy dies, dust puffs, etc., stuff like that. So when it came to the flame puffs I'm referencing, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about in a moment or two, they had to get pretty creative. And how they did that was by simply combining several of these flame puff sprites into one particular object. I call these flame bursts. We have a blaze flame puff, which is a smaller flame. We have a secondary flame puff, which is a little larger and rounder, kind of shaped like a mushroom. And then there's a third, lesser used one that's got a weird kind of shape. It's almost like a combination of the first two, but scaled down and edited slightly. And then we have Flame Burst 1, which is just basically the first flame puff over and over. There's about 8 of them put in there. And then we have Flame Burst 2, which is a mix of Flame Puff 1 and 2. And again, 8 objects, but they're all put into one object together and made into a graphics effect. And besides all of that, if you pause your game, you'll notice that each of the aforementioned flame puffs blinks every step. And that's because they're basically, well, I'm not 100% sure if they're changing between additive. It looks like they're changing between additive and normal blending, and that's what causes it. I initially thought it was a palette trick where they were changing between 2 different color palettes, but that doesn't seem to be the case because you'll notice the transparency changes as well. And when enemies are behind it, it looks like it blends different. So I had to reproduce all of those things, and we're just talking a simple effect here. There was also another thing in the original game that I didn't like, and that's the fact that they had blue flame attacks, or different color flame attacks, I should say. Off the top of my head, I know they had a blue one, but if you had different flame attacks and you got hit by them, like a purple one, a green one, or a blue one as an example, Alucard would still just have orange flame particles on them, which didn't make sense. And same thing if you, let's say the player had some kind of different color flame attacks, you would only see orange colored flames because, well, that's pretty much all they had in the game. There was also another type of flame that I don't call a puff. I call it a high res flame that they use for bosses quite a bit. Like a perfect example is the Darkwing Bat, the Creature, Medusa, Beelzebub, Death. When they die, you'll notice these more high res flames come off of them. And that's totally separate from the flame puffs, but I reproduced those as well. The dust puffs in the game, I will tell you, are the actual aforementioned flame puffs, but with more transparency, and they actually use a different palette. So I reproduced all of those. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to show you guys a quick video of it, and you guys can see for yourself versus sitting here listening to me run my mouth like it's going through a goddamn marathon. And here we have Big Daddy Drac. He's just hanging out on the staircase with his son Alucard there. I wonder why that is. Let's see what happens.
Come forth.
And boom, it looks like Alucard's putting on the show for Daddy. Look at all those fireworks. God damn. So anyway, this is what I was talking about. There are a multitude of flame puffs. If you can see the mouse pointer, Flame Puff 1 is in the middle. Flame Puff 2 is that pumpkin-shaped one. Flame Puff 3 is used a bit less, but a perfect example of an enemy that uses it is the lion in the reverse castle. And then we have Flame Burst 1 all the way over on the right. Notice it uses Flame Puff 1. And Flame Burst 2, which uses a combination of 1 and 2. And you'll notice we have the different color ones. The dust is over here on the lower right. Again, same thing. Puff 1, Puff 2, Puff 3, Burst 1, Burst 2. And then 2 of the high-res flames I mentioned that come in a variety of colors. However, there's something else going on here that might be of interest to you guys. Something that wasn't present in the original game. You see that flickering on Alucard? A little hard to tell probably because this is a video, so let's turn the lights down just a little bit. Now let's get this the hell out of the way. See that? That, my friends, is ambient lighting. Each of these puffs has lighting, and I set it up in a way that even if there's this many on the screen, it's not going to cause you an issue. The computer I'm on is several years old. And I can tell you guys, I'm having no slowdown here. We're still at about 200 frames per second. So this is going to be just fine. The flame bursts in particular, the groups of them, let me move this out of the way here. The flame bursts on the right here, on the left, in particular, I thought were ingenious the way they were designed in the original game because, as mentioned earlier in the video, there was very limited space for effects, so they literally combined several of them into one particular effect and animated it. These puffs in the middle aren't really hard to animate. They were pretty simple. Experimenting with the light levels and getting them correct was the hardest part because I had to figure out a light level and a blending level and an alpha level for each of these that would work in normal light, low light. I mean, the room isn't even all dark here. It has to work with enemies that are bright colors, enemies that are dimly colored, bright backgrounds, dimly lit backgrounds, etc. Bright backgrounds, dark backgrounds, etc. I had to find a comfortable medium point where these effects would not look washed out or too bright in each of those scenarios and still function for what they were designed to do. So this took quite a bit of time to just experiment with these and get them looking just right, but I gotta say I'm very happy with the results right now. I really have no complaints here, and I'm amazed that I managed to reproduce the originals in particular. The original game had an orange one, the dust one, and these high-res flames. There was no green, purple, or blue flame puff effects. Something else I'm going to show you guys if I pause the game. Notice the blinking. If you can see it on the video, that again is because the shader is changed every step to go from bright to dim. It's easier to see if I actually pause the entire game and do this. Now you can see it if you look on the left side. And this is because a big trademark of Konami in the old days was you'll notice when you paused your game there were certain things that kept blinking. This is very noticeable in the Ninja Turtle games, the Contra games, etc. Even before we get to Symphony of the Night, there are many games where, in particular, red parts of certain sprites would keep blinking. They'd keep cycling through colors. And I believe originally that was actually a limitation of the hardware, but over time it kind of became a trademark of Konami where you paused your game and certain things kept flickering and blinking. Well, these flame puffs are one such thing. Another example is Alucard's own personal cloak, the Twilight Cloak. You'll notice the red keeps flickering even when the game is paused. And that, again, is something that early on I believe was a hardware limitation in earlier games, but as we got to Symphony of the Night, when that occurred for his cloak, it was done on purpose. Same thing for the Crystal Cloak. It blinks every step. So I wanted to make sure I duplicated that so it actually felt like a genuine, actual Konami game, even though it's obviously a fan game because it's kind of a trademark of theirs. And while it seems like a little detail, those important little touches, those unique little things that they do are a big part of what give the game its soul and just make it so fucking amazing, in my opinion. To you guys, it's probably a silly little thing, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it fucking right. I'm going to bring this bitch to fucking orgasm, let her toes curl, and make it so that when she crawls out of bed, she literally falls on her ass. It looks like she's having a heart attack, a stroke, and a cerebral embolism all at once. Yeah, I'm a bad motherfucker, and I know how to tear the pussy up. What? To give you guys a quick little insight into what goes on here, Flame Puff 1, you can see, is pretty simple. It's an animator, a sprite, and a light. But now let's look at one of these flame bursts. And here I tried to be efficient with it because I only needed 4 puffs because there's only 4 on the screen at the same time. So let's go to Flame Burst 1 right here. There's no more than 4 displayed, so this is a quick way of saving on processing power, graphics, VRAM I should say. I shouldn't say just graphics in general, that's a very vague description. But it's a good way to save on VRAM, processing power, etc. And with the lights, I only use 2. You can see the light, if you actually watch the position of it, actually moves along with the flames in a way that as it's going down screen, it looks like it matches. And there's 2 lights that do that. It's probably better if I play the game and just put the lights a little dimmer. Let's do this. I will tell you guys up front, when it's dimly lit, very dimly lit, the colors do look a little funny to me, I believe. So I'm thinking of creating a couple of variants of these that when the lights get low, don't look so washed out. And that's very easy to do because I can just change the range on the lights to be a little bigger. But for something that's going to be used 99% of the time, because there's not going to be a lot of rooms in the game that are dark, very dark, this was the best way to do it to make sure things look good. Like if you look at these, you'll notice the lights seem to move down with the flames. They're not just staying in place and blinking. Same thing here. You can see the lights, especially on the purple one because it's a little brighter, are moving down with it. Let's dim the lights a little more. Again, the colors are going to look a little washed out here. Don't let that throw you. and you can see the lights are moving down with it. So yeah, I did consider the actual motion of the flames too. They're not just flickering in place like in a lot of games where they don't look correct. They do actually move with the flames. So it's a little more attention to detail. Is it something earth-shattering or mind-blowing? No, fuck no, of course not. But just want to show you a little of my attention to detail. And the puff, as I said, you can see, the flame burst, you can see it has 4 puffs, 2 lights. But you can see the animation itself was a little involved. There is a pattern here, but it involved me looking at the original, making sure all of the sprites matched with the position. I'm setting up the sprite sheets properly, so everything would just come out looking the way it's supposed to look and not all funky and messed up looking. So that's pretty much all I have to show off this time. I'm not really going to show anything with Dracula 2, his attacks or effects just yet. I want to save that for another update when I have more of his animations and attacks done. I really don't want to turn this into a thing where every week I'm just showing, oh, well, I did this, oh, I did that, and kind of ruining everything versus leaving something in the game. Let's just say there's a lot of surprises you guys have already done with even Dracula's second form that I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy. I will also say this, for those of you who are right now looking at this and going, oh my god, there's a lot of lights there, won't that cause my computer to just or light on fire and explode? Well, no, because I even went so far as to create about 100 of these all together on screen. At that point, I was getting some slowdown, I believe, but you're talking at that point there were probably about 250 lights on the screen. So yeah, 250 lights on the screen, you're going to have a problem. But you're never going to get anywhere near that in the game because of how I've designed these and how these are used. The only way you're ever going to see that many on screen is if you're deliberately putting those objects in trying to break the game. There's no way in the world you're ever going to see. I mean, you would have to literally have about, let me think, I put about 100 objects on screen. Yeah, you would have to have probably, I mean, it'd be, I don't see how you'd physically do that. Even if you had, let's say, a Diplocephalus on screen, it uses a multitude of flame bursts, but you're talking it uses probably about 3 or 4 flame bursts and a couple of flame puffs here or there. I mean, you're not talking 100 of them at once. Even something like Legion, when he dies, he spews up high-res flames, but even he uses about 30 flames, and that's it. That's nowhere near enough to cause the game to slow down. Like I said, you're going to need about 250, 300 lights on screen to do that, and you would have to be basically setting the game up to break it. So a big part of how I do this is, again, keeping in mind processing power, VRAM usage, and making sure that people who have a computer that's a couple of years older, the whole system isn't going to yak on you. Alright, so that's all I got to talk about today. As always, if you're not a Patreon supporter, go join right now. Don't get used to these videos being public. Most of the stuff I put up is on the Patreon page. That's the good stuff. If you're a true supporter of this project, go show it. Talk with your wallet. You know, talk is not just cheap but free. So you all can consider me a deaf man with 20/20 vision, and that's all there is to it. If you want to make a one-time donation via PayPal, link will be down below. Getting past the money, if you want to join the forums, Facebook group, hey, you guys are all more than welcome to. The more the merrier. Let's turn this into a big-ass fucking block party. That's it. That's all I got to talk about. Deuces. Hope everybody's staying safe during COVID-19 and with all the crazy shit going on in the world. Remember, it's not a bad life. It's just a bad day. Keep your head up. Stay strong. I'm out.